Hello folks, I wanted to discuss a very important transit today, but before I do that I wanted to say a big thanks to those who have subscribed and to those who leave feedback. And for those who have not yet done so, please click the subscribe button on the right hand side. Alright, let's get started. We have a lot to talk about here. Alright, so Jupiter moves into Aquarius on April the 5th and will remain there till September the 14th. Jupiter will start its retrograde cycle on June the 20th till October the 18th. Then it will return to Capricorn for around 2 months this autumn. It re-enters Aquarius from November the 20th and will remain there till April the 13th, 2022. Now this is a special transit of Jupiter for a couple of reasons. First, of course, it is leaving behind its debilitated state. And there's a dictum in Vedic astrology which states that Jupiter in Aquarius gives almost as good as results as when it's situated in Cancer. Why, you ask? Because the debilitation sign of a planet can create immense pressure for it to perform in a very unfamiliar and incompatible environment. In Capricorn, Jupiter feels out of place, as Capricorn is a very dry sign, a sign that concerns itself with basic needs, where calculation and planning are required, whereas Jupiter is a planet that concerns itself with higher knowledge, spiritualism, and philosophy. Sagittarius is basically faith in that which you cannot see, whereas Capricorn is completely the opposite. It only concerns itself with what you can see, the necessities required for survival. So leaving this space for Aquarius and at the same time moving away from Saturn is an enormous boost for Jupiter. Another reason why this is a special transit is there's a once in 12 years Kumbh Mela that happens at this time. Kumbh, of course, literally means pitcher, jar, pot of water. And of course, Kumbh is the word for Aquarius in Sanskrit. Essentially, since the 19th century, the Kumbh Mela is a pilgrimage for the purpose of bathing rituals, and it's been performed for centuries, sort of an atonement for one's sins, if you will. Another significance of Kumbh, which is quite practical and relevant, I think, is that it's used in pranayama. Pranayama is essentially a breathing exercise. Here with Kumbh, we're talking about very, very slow breathing. Yeah. So for this particular transit, especially if Jupiter is not a functional benefit for you, this is a great remedy to incorporate pranayama into your life, into your daily life. Kumbhaka literally means holding. So we're talking about really slow breathing and holding it very strategically so that you get the benefits. This is tied into the fact that Kumbh is lorded by Saturn, right? And Saturn tends to be a slow planet in its movement. So pranayama is excellent remedy for this transit. Now let's talk a little bit about Jupiter. It's the role of Jupiter basically to move the soul from one life to another. In fact, our greatest fulfillment comes from Jupiter. What we're here to do, our higher purpose. And Jupiter actually has a closer composition to a star than a planet. So it emits light. And therefore, its placement in the chart is the area where the individual can shine through and connect with their own divinity. is also a generative energy and a regenerative energy. So therefore it becomes the Karaka for children, because children are a product of that regeneration. They're a product of creation. And that same creative energy is, of course, sexual energy. Yes? So you're like, it depends on how you use it. Now, so connecting with any Jupiter transit, and especially if you're going through a Jupiter Dasha, it's important to see what that spark is, that light is within you, and to experiment with different things in life to discover that light within you. Especially if you're in a Jupiter Dasha, because it's an excellent opportunity to do that. But also when you're experiencing a beneficial Jupiter transit. So if you can spend that transit searching and exploring and uncovering that spark within your higher purpose, what you're here to do, is excellent time. So this would be an excellent time to do that. Yeah. Now, because Jupiter moves so slowly and takes 1 year to transit a sign and 12 years to come back to the place where it sits in your sign, everyone feels the impact one way or another. In Kendra and Trine houses, it's very supportive. Yeah, so it's considered to be a favorable transit. So in other words, going through Aquarius, it's an excellent transit for Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Gemini, Libra, and of course Aquarius. Aquarius themes will start to come to the surface. People will get more interested in social movements, collective groups, perhaps networking, online-based businesses, finding inventive ways of making money and coming up with ways to fulfill your desires and your higher calling in some cases. When Jupiter enters Aquarius in April, we can feel optimistic about new beginnings and finding solutions to old problems. Now, through this transit in Aquarius, it's going to spend time in 3 different nakshatras. Now, by looking at constellations, we go one step deeper and uncover the underlying pulse of that planet's transit, its subtle energies, and therefore a deeper layer. First, Jupiter starts its transit in Dhanishta, where it has already been in the Capricorn portion since March the 4th, and will stay there till May the 22nd. So this can be a great time for clearing away all the outdated and old and outdated and established new foundations. Yeah. As well, it connects to Mars in this period, whom it will aspect from mid-April till early June during Mars's stay in Gemini. So excellent period, especially if you're going through a dasha or antardasha of Mars. It will boost the significations of Mars in a positive way during this transit. And in fact, this applies to everyone experiencing Mars dasha or antardasha throughout the year, as Jupiter will return to Dhanishta on July the 19th and stay there till January the 2nd, 2022. Yeah. This is where most of Jupiter transit will take place. So Mars transits all throughout also become quite relevant during this period that we have. It's actually the majority of the period of Aquarius transit. Jupiter will be in Dhanishta. So pay attention to where Mars is moving along with it. It would be a good time to start a new business, buy property, traveling, religious pilgrimages, any healing modalities that you're interested in learning, yoga, meditation. If you're musically inclined, it's a great time to learn something new, perhaps an instrument or like a form of dance or something. Dhanishta is a very independent and unorthodox nakshatra, so you can accomplish a lot on your own if you choose to at this time. So for example, if you had any ideas for a new business project, then this would be a good time to forge ahead and take some risks. For timing new beginnings, pay attention to Mars's transit, as it's going to be working, as I mentioned, it's going to be working in conjunction with this Jupiter transit. Now, Jupiter goes into Shatabisha on May the 22nd and stays there till 18th of July. Shatabisha is also known as the healing nakshatra, or the nakshatra of 100 physicians. Here we can collectively see the light and start to feel inspired and hopeful. There may be many breakthroughs with respect to getting successful results with the COVID vaccine also at this time. Jupiter in Shatabisha is basically like the Shiva in Nilkant myth, where all the poison is absorbed by him, and so he's depicted with a blue throat. So it's very, very appropriate for seeing positive results from the vaccines. Yeah. Early next year, Jupiter returns to Shatabisha on January the 2nd, 2022, and stays there till March the 1st. So we're going to get a couple of more months of this early in 2022. Not only does Shatabisha help us connect with healing energies, but it's also good for property deals if you are looking to make some of those, business deals, traveling, buying luxury items, including cars. Especially since it connects with Rahu's movement through Taurus. Rahu being the controlling planet, and of course Taurus being a place where you know, where we're talking about luxury, and we're talking about Rahu, especially going through Rohini. So excellent time for looking into luxury items. Yeah. Passionate relationships, for that same reason, can also feature at this time. And finally, Jupiter will go into Purvabhadra from March the 2nd till April the 12th in Aquarius, and remain in this nakshatra till the end of April for a brief period. Yeah. And then it's still in Purvabhadra, but it's in Pisces portion after the 12th of April next year. Now, so if you thought about, during this period, if you thought about cultivating any new good habits, it would be an excellent time for that. Early waking up regime, healthier diet, new spiritual practice, new yoga practice, meeting a guru, reconnecting with an old guru. Good also for research-related activities, digging deeper into astrology. Purvabhadra is good for that. And taking leaps and risks in any sort of business projects. Yeah, it's going to be a brief transit through Purvabhadra in the Aquarius portion. Remember that Jupiter transits the same place every 12 years, and astrology is really just here to show us patterns in our lives that repeat. So it's very important to see what happened in your life 12 years ago, as the same themes and issues may arise again. Last time we had a Jupiter in Aquarius transit was from May the 1st, 2009 till July the 31st, 2009. And then again from December the 19th, 2009 till May the 2nd, 2010. And then for the final instance from November the 1st, 2010 till December the 6th, 2010. Yeah. Now, this is especially important to note for those who are having a Jupiter return. For example, if your natal Jupiter is in Aquarius, a 12-year period has just ended and a new one is now starting. So it's a good time to plant new seeds. Anything you start, whether it's a new project, business, career, residence, relationship, spiritual practice, you can be sure that Jupiter's blessings will be there. Being in a Jupiter return cycle, you will also undergo a big shift in one of these areas at least, possibly more than one. Usually Jupiter return is a lucky year where you're in the right place at the right time. It's a year when people just show up in your life to help you achieve your goals and desires. So it's very important to have clear intentions, as they will bring big positive results. You need to, of course, check the lordship of Jupiter and see where it's placed in your chart to get a hint about where you will experience growth, luck, and blessings. And of course, see if it's getting direct aspects from other planets, as this always colors the results that you get from a transit, yes? So what do I mean by that? For instance, you've got the 10th lord sitting right next to Jupiter in your own chart, in your birth chart, or it's directly opposite Jupiter, then surely your career will get a boost in the same way if it is directly opposite the 7th lord. Then it may be a good time to start a relationship or get married, right? So you have to see where the transit is connecting with your birth chart as well, right? Not just, okay, I'm a Leo ascendant, therefore it's the 7th house, or I'm an Aries ascendant, therefore it's the 11th house. Go one step beyond that. And of course, more importantly, if there are planets sitting in Aquarius, see how they will get impacted, because they will get directly impacted. Yeah, one other thing to note here, it's a little bit of a secret, I guess, that is you know, used with concepts like multrikon. So I'm going to briefly touch on that. Jupiter is transiting through Saturn's multrikon sign, which is Aquarius. Very specifically, the first 0 to 20 degrees of Aquarius. So if you are in a dasha of Saturn or under dasha of Saturn, you will experience the auspicious results of Aquarius. Yeah. Being that that's anyway an auspicious 0 to 20 degrees, but also because Jupiter is transiting there. Now, I'm going to go through all the signs, and as usual, I'm going to give a very brief and general overview. So, let's get started. Yeah, Aries goes first. Now, Aries, for you, this is a fantastic, very, very, very good transit. One of the best. Jupiter goes into your 11th house. So it's excellent for anything. It's for income, relationships, all-round prosperity, doing something that you wished you would have done, but maybe you didn't have the opportunity before, or maybe you didn't feel confidence. It's an excellent time to do all of those things. 11th house represents gains of all kinds, social connections, daily income, fulfillment of desires. It's a very important house. It's the highest of the Kama houses, and of course the highest of the Upachaya houses as well. It's your 9th lord transiting in the 11th house, so source of income will increase, and secondary source of income also may appear. Whatever effort you put into developing your spiritual life as well, you will see immense results at this time. Great time to develop any kind of connections, good time to give back to society, great time to get involved in groups, do community work of all kind. So all-around prosperity can come your way in all aspects of life: marriage, children, career, income. All planets do well in the 11th house, especially Jupiter and Saturn. Yeah. Taurus, for you, Jupiter goes into your 10th house, Kendra house, so good transit. However, Jupiter is a functional malefic for you. It's the 8th and the 11th lord moving through the 10th house. So your career could see some changes, some transformations, some shifts. There could be a new career, something completely unorthodox, out of the box, but you may be willing to take some risks at the moment. 10th house dominates the chart, so you'll get involved with you know, mostly it'll be good activities because Jupiter is transiting there. It's a great time to seek a mentor, especially related to your life path and your career, if you thought about doing that, or if there's some confusion in those areas. You should of course be careful about your relationships with your bosses or with any kind of higher authority at this time. It's a good yoga though for any wealth building activities, especially related to real estate. If you're practical, your ambitions will be rewarded, and overall good transit for you. Yeah. All right, so what's happening for Gemini? Well, for Gemini, Jupiter moves into your 9th house. It's actually a relief for you because you've been hosting both Saturn and Jupiter in that difficult 8th house. So Jupiter moving to the 9th house, you'll feel much better and also be perceived in a more positive light. Yeah, because it's directly aspecting Gemini from that 9th house. You can meet people who will help you achieve your goals. The house of luck and prosperity is getting activated. 7th lord in the 9th house. Excellent time to tie the knot if you thought about doing that. If you're single, you could meet someone while you're traveling. Also an excellent yoga for wealth and getting wishes fulfilled. So maybe a time to take some risks. Great time for starting higher studies of any kind. It's a good time to build your qualifications, your skills, and develop your ideas from your research and findings from the recent 8th house transit. 9th house is the house of advisors and of guides. So you could consider taking advice and guidance maybe from an astrologer, or from your guru, or from a counselor. Or if you need any sort of legal help, that's also it's also a good time for that. A great time to improve your relationship with your father. Its aspect on the 5th house can bring a fulfilling new relationship, and also a good time for childbirth if that's where you are in your life. Yeah, you'll feel regenerated and renewed because it's aspecting that 1st house, thereby bringing enthusiasm and optimism for new beginnings. Now, what's happening for Cancer? Cancer, Jupiter enters your 8th house. 8th house represents what? We're talking about fears, we're talking about obsessions, we're talking about subconscious thoughts, we're talking about past life karma, and these come to the surface. You can develop an interest in occult, in spirituality, in deep healing modalities. Best time to go deeper into any practice you had started. Intuition can become sharper and clearer. There will be a feeling that divine help comes your way when you need it. 8th house also represents reproductive organs, so you may conceive a child now also. It's a great time for spiritual practices as it will clear away confusion. Also good for any sort of nature retreats. Overall, good time for any self-awareness initiatives. 8th is second from the 7th, so it can show gains from others. For example, joint investments that you've had. Sudden gains can come through, but perhaps after some struggle first. Yeah. With the 6th Lord in the 8th house, it can also point to getting involved with healing activities or a career connected to that. If you're doing research in this area, it's excellent for that. Excellent transit for counselors, teachers, healers. Take care of your health, however, because we're talking about the 8th house. Any chronic ailments may come to the surface, and I would say don't borrow or lend money if you can help it. Yeah. Now, what's happening for Leo? For Leos, it's an excellent transit. It is transiting the 7th house, which is, of course, a Kendra house. Great time to make connections with others, especially if you're single. You could certainly get married at this time. You may meet someone that you deeply connect with. You may also get serious about a current partner and get married if that's what you're planning. So where relationships are concerned, you have luck with you, as you will meet quality people who will bring you opportunities that could lead to prosperity of all kinds in the future. Yeah. Business partnerships will also be blessed. So great time to form any kind of alliances at this time. Your earnings from business ventures could also increase. Your contacts will support you, and you will definitely make more contacts due to Jupiter's aspect on your 11th house. Yeah. All the karma houses are getting activated. Great time to nurture relationships with others, as you will be viewed in a positive light, just generally. With this aspect on the other karma houses, the 11th and 3rd, as I mentioned, if you wanted to start a new business, a new project, a new relationship, anything, great time for that. Good also for boosting earnings, excellent for fulfilling any long-held wishes or dreams. The only warning I would say is watch for weight gain because of its aspect on the 1st house, so maybe avoid sweets and things like that. Virgo, what's happening for you? For you, transit is happening in your 6th house. 6th house is, of course, the house of debts and disease and enemies and court cases, and also health and healing. So it can be a difficult place. It tends to bring problems into your life, but with Jupiter there, it will also bring the solutions. You may be placed in the position to help others with their problems, like people that are victims of legal issues or disease or something like that. This is the 7th Lord in the 6th house, so it can bring some relationship endings to it this time. So you have to be watchful there. Aspects the 2nd and 10th house, so best time to work hard in life as it will bring success. Normally daily routines can feel like a burden. With Jupiter here though, you could develop a better routine that will serve you for the next 12 years. And you could also enjoy your work more, right? The daily, the grunt, the mundane stuff. It'd be a good time to spend with your family because of its aspect on the 2nd house. You can earn well from your job now as well, and perhaps family investments or family assets. Great time to focus on your health. simply because it's in the 6th house. So you can explore areas of health, start a new vitamin regimen, see which foods are healing. Sometimes what happens with Jupiter's 6th house transit is that it brings health issues to the surface. I mean, you may think that this is something that just happened now, but actually it's just bringing it to your attention at this time, because it's putting its energy, it's putting its focus there. So it would be a good time to then find a solution to that problem, and consequently develop a new health regimen, a new routine, or get a health checkup, or create a better diet, for example. Excellent time for that. It can help you change your lifestyle in a positive way, basically. Great time to get a pet, if you ever thought about that. Spend more time with your pets, if you have any. If you've been thinking about moving abroad, also a good time, because it's aspecting your 12th house. Yeah. Okay, so for Libras, what's happening for you? Well, for you, you've got an amazing transit happening. You've got Jupiter going through your 5th house. Here Jupiter is very confident, creative, and can channel divine intelligence. It can increase your scope to claim power. It can also bring luck in your speculative and gambling activities, like, for example, the stock market. It's good for childbirth if you're aiming for this, and it's good for pursuing higher studies if you ever thought about doing that. You can become more creative at this time, more artistic. You might change your appearance, your image. If that's the case, you'll see the impact immediately. Great time for investments, great time to grow your business, great time to start a business. We're talking about the 5th house. 5th house is also a house of promotion, so it's best to ask for a promotion if that's what you wanted to do. If you're single and planning to get into a relationship, excellent time for that. Great time to pursue anything that you love, that which brings you joy and happiness, basically. That which connects you to your higher purpose, what we talked about earlier. For you, this is a magnificent time to check into that, right? That divine, that spark that we talked about. Your inner calling in essence, your higher purpose. Aspect to the 9th house and your Lagna is a great blessing and can bring you lucky breaks. So get out there and take some chances. And this transit can bring lots of good options your way. So you have to choose wisely. Yeah. All right, so Scorpio, what's happening for Scorpios? For you, this transit is happening in the 4th house. So it's a great time to move residence or change things up in your current residence, in your current home. If you wanted to, for example, redecorate your home, it's an excellent time for that. Great time to reconnect to family, great time to invest or even buy property. Good time for studying a new subject. We're talking about the 4th house of education. 4th house also represents comforts of all kinds. Right? It's basically the Sukh Baba, the house of happiness, anything that feels good, anything that, not just home in the physical sense, but anything that feels like being home or at home. So it's a good feel-good transit, I suppose. 4th house also represents mother, luxuries, cars, land, property. So all of those things can be positively impacted in your life. You could move to a bigger house, right? Because Jupiter has an expansive energy, and sitting in the 4th house, it could help with that. It's a good time to visit your birthplace too, because after all, 4th house is synonymous with our birthplace. Some traditional philosophies that you had may make more sense to you now. And if you marry now, your spouse can actually provide a very strong emotional anchor for you. Great period for your domestic life in general. Yeah. Sagittarius, what's happening for you? Well, for you, Jupiter is moving into your 3rd house, which can bring opportunities for travel, for setting up your own business, in case you ever thought about doing that. 3rd house is, of course, house of self-effort, initiative, entrepreneurial efforts. We see that from 3rd house also, and that includes actually online projects, online businesses, online projects. So good time also for writing books, for writing blogs. any sort of written communication. Great time for developing your hobbies, taking up new hobbies. You could take your hobby and turn it into a business. If you want to start a new endeavor, a new website, this is the year to do it. You may put a lot of energy for connecting with your younger sibling also. And of course, short distance travel gets a boost here too. Third house also represents the subconscious mind. So it shows ways of connecting with people. Petty issues can, of course, crop up with others, so be aware of that. Many things will start to make sense to you. You can also start new relationships because of Jupiter's aspect on your 7th house, aspecting the 7th and 11th, so brings blessings towards relationships, groups, community work, even a better income. Yeah, so good transit overall. Now, Capricorn, what's happening for you? Well, Jupiter moves into your 2nd house, which is a good relief for you. 2nd house is very good for Jupiter. It's the house that sustains us by way of food, wealth, family. So wealth could increase, family could increase. You may get a lot of support from your family that you weren't getting before. New opportunities for financial growth could come up. It's a good time to save money. Your speech will become more refined, and you will then attract more people to you. Secondary source of income, like inheritances through family partner, could also come through. It's a great time for career matters. So making a place in your career, if you wanted to do that, you could do that now. It could also increase your status by way of doing that. So excellent transit overall, Capricorn. So what's happening for Aquarius? Well, Jupiter goes into your 1st house. This is an ideal position, especially if that's your lagna. Very good time when Jupiter enters a Kendra house, as Jupiter gets Digbala here in your 1st house. If it's your ascendant. Yeah, we're not talking about the moon here. Digbala is basically directional strength, and Jupiter there is going to make you feel a lot more positive than you have in years. Whenever a planet gets Digbala, its energy is more easily expressed. Here Jupiter expands all matters related to the 1st house, creating healthier ego, physical body, intelligence, and thereby increasing your popularity and your social status. Sources of wealth can also increase. Good time to get married, as there's a direct aspect to the 7th house. Great time to start a new business. Great for traveling to foreign places. Relationship with children will improve due to its aspect on the 5th house. If you start a spiritual practice, then you will achieve success. Good time to meet a guru, more likely that the person will automatically come to you. If you want to make up relationships that have been damaged, then very good time for that. Overall, it's a great transit, so I would say make the most of it. Yeah. Now, we have, finally, Pisces. For Pisces, Jupiter is going into your 12th house. This is Jupiter's natural place, so it's comfortable here. This is a house of loss of the physical and gain of the astral, so take care of your health here. It is the house of seclusion, of isolation, of charity, but also expenses, so you could be spending a lot. Dreams, visions, and messages will be available to you at this time, so pay attention to your inner voice. Great time to let go of things, to let go of old possessions, people, even ideas and thoughts that no longer make sense and no longer serve you. Great time to give up any kind of addiction. And it's a great time to connect to nature and spirituality, including meditation, because we're talking about the 12th house here. This will get you ready for the next big 12-year cycle. It's the last year of that, because of course next year we were talking about Jupiter entering Pisces, so that's the beginning of the new cycle for you. Good time to, if you ever thought about doing a yoga retreat, this would be excellent for that. If you wanted to relocate abroad, it's a great time for that, or even take trips to far and unknown places. Excellent for that. With this aspect on the 4th and 8th house, you could also get unexpected gains, like property or insurance, or like from joint resources with someone else. Yeah. All right, well, that's all for now, folks. If you liked the video, please share, comment, and subscribe. Thanks as always. Cheers, and all the best to everyone.